Welcome to our sixth day of contemplation on the Lenten hymns from our hymnal. And the choice of hymns for today is one called In Your Mercy, which appears hymn 706 in our hymnal. Now, this is an altered version that we have in our hymnal, and the original one was written by Josiah Conder. Now, the author, Josiah Conder, seemed to have inherited his jobs. And by that, I mean his grandfather was the Reverend John Connor, and his father was the Thomas Conder, who was a bookseller and an engraver. And so by the time Josiah came along, his career was focused on being an editor of both poetry books and hymn books. He also wrote some of the hymns himself. He was the editor of both the Eclectic Review and a newspaper called The Patriot. His style of hymn writing is beautifully encaptured by John Julian on the website Dictionary of Hymnology. Julian writes, as a hymn writer, Conder ranks with some of the best of the first half of the present century. His finest hymns are marked by much elevation of thought expressed in language, combining both force and beauty. They generally excel in unity, and in some, the gradual unfolding of the leading idea is masterly. The outcome of a deeply spiritual mind. They deal chiefly with the enduring elements of religion. Their variety in meter, their style, and in treatment saves them from the monotonous mannerisms which mars the work of many hymn writers. Their theology, though decidedly evangelical, is yet of a broad and liberal kind. Now, while this particular hymn shows up in the Christian life section of our hymnal, themes of mercy for our sinful actions really resonates during the Lenten season. As I mentioned, like our previous hymn, this is a hymn that has been altered. It mainly has been shortened and condensed. It was done so by Charles P. Pierce, who was an Episcopal priest and part of the 1982 hymnal committee. And so what I would like to offer for us today is both versions of the hymn. The first one, the shortened one that is in our hymnal, and the second one, the more expansive one, originally written by Conder. It has a lot of the same ideas, but I think this will give us a little bit more to contemplate as we go forward. So first off, here's the version that is in our hymnal. In your mercy, Lord, you called me, taught my sin-filled heart and mind. Else this world had still enthralled me, and glory kept me blind. Lord, I did not freely choose you, so by grace you set me free. For my heart would still refuse you, had your love not chosen me. Now my heart sets none above you, for your grace alone I thirst, knowing well that if I love you, O Lord, you have loved me first. And now the original, more expansive poem written by Conder. Lord, 'tis not that I did choose you, that I know could never be. This heart would still refuse you had your grace not chosen me. You removed the sin that stained me, cleansing me to be your own. For this purpose, you ordained me that I live for you alone. It was grace in Christ that called me, but my darkened heart and mind, else the world had yet enthralled me. To your heavenly glories blind. Now, I worship none above you. For your grace alone I thirst, knowing well that if I love you, you, O Father, love me first. Praise the God of all creation. Praise the Father's boundless love. Praise the Lamb, our expiation, priest and king enthroned above. Praise the Spirit of salvation, him by whom our spirit lives. Undivided adoration to the great Jehovah gives. And the questions I'm going to leave you with to ponder work for both versions of the hymn. First off, how has God's grace played out in your life? Secondly, how do you perceive how, or do you perceive how God is working in the hearts of others, even when they don't recognize it themselves? And thirdly, how do you understand the concept of eternal love as God shows it to all the world and to you as an individual? Well, that's a lot to contemplate, isn't it? So I will leave you with it, and I'll see you again tomorrow, which time I hope that you take care and may God continue to bless.